Well, then you tell him that without my SEO, his CRM would have no ROI. Let the USB speak for the CTA, and I'll show you a CTR that supports our KPI. Okay. Hi there. Sorry about that. I was just on the phone with my mother. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present some of the work I've done in a few of my recent professional roles. We could sit here and you could mindlessly scroll through an image deck without actually knowing what any of the work really is. So I thought, why not take you on a quick journey to highlight some of my experiences that will be of benefit to your head of marketing position at ARI. Included will be some static imagery, as well as clips that I think will portray some of the approaches I have taken to yield effective messaging and brand awareness. So come on, let's go for a ride. For those I have not met that are watching this, my name is Andrew Meyer, although I do typically go by Andy, so feel free to use that if you'd like. I'm a lucky spouse to Michelle and a proud father of 3 kids, Mia, Brecken, and Bryson. We are pulled in many directions come evening and weekends, depending on the season, including horseback riding, soccer, basketball, and lots of baseball. I do volunteer as a program director for our baseball organization here in Noblesville, which houses over 1,200 kids between our rec and travel programs. I'm a former regional leader for a men's group called Fight Club, and as you know, with the first rule of Fight Club, I'm not allowed to talk about Fight Club. I'm kidding. My marketing career started out in media by way of account director positions at ABC and ESPN radio networks for 2 years, having the opportunity to work on ad campaigns for such shows as Mike and Mike in the Morning, The Dan Patrick Show, and many others. Then I went on to NCM Media Networks, the pre-show you watch before the trailers and movies start at the movie theaters, for a little over 8 years. After 10 plus years in media advertising, I took the biggest leap of my life and started my own company from the ground up. A brewery, at the time known as TwoDEEP Brewing Co., which was located downtown Indianapolis off Capitol Avenue. Discussing the brewery and even being hyper-focused on the marketing efforts that surrounded this venture would take hours to relay. But from inception to business plan writing to financial projections, lease agreements, funding, and eventual operations, this was an all-encompassing chapter in my experience that still plays out to what I do today. I was fortunate enough to put smarter people in place to further execute a lot of our ongoing branding and marketing efforts, and these leadership experiences were invaluable. Whether you want to look at packaging design or more of our experiential efforts via the tap room, we touch just about every sector of the marketing world in bringing your brand to life and establishing a place in the market. Upon my exit from the business, and I'm happy to discuss that next week, I then migrated into education as a stopgap until I figured out what the next chapter would be. Little did I know how quickly I would immerse myself into technology role that I held at Noblesville Schools in helping administer our one-to-one student device platform, but also the enhancement of building technology. I would not necessarily think to include a mention of this in a portfolio example. However, just about everything we do includes an element of marketing in some way. For example, the school wanted a better way to relay important information for inbound students for the upcoming year. I simply suggested we have various departments utilize video to create a relaxed approach that would be encouraging and not off-putting, but informational. You can click the link to see an example. Fast forward through the beginning of COVID, my path brought me to ICF. Here, I finally was able to bring all current experiences and help a brand revive itself and come into the 21st century. While I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, prior to 2020, they had done zero by way of establishing a digital footprint, doing any kind of email marketing. Sampling material was approaching almost 10 years in age. There was no customer data retention other than historical sales, no CRM usage, no detailed product information in the digital sphere, and so on and so on. My first task out of the gate was to revamp the website. The first problem was that there was no synergy from the company name to brand imagery to colors used on their entire site. Everything from sample books to the website all had different approaches to the name and how it was perceived. Knowing this was going to be quite the uphill climb, I started with a complete revamp of the website, focusing on synergies of color, imagery, and a flow that was all connected. Even down to the fonts, nothing had ever been done previously to say, hey, when we write a body of text, we need to use XYZ font. As you can see in the images, the site has a completely different feel, yet still illustrates some of the original ideas. Once the framework was completed, it was easy to add additional pages as new fabrics were developed. On top of that, I created ICF's first lead generation tool via the website instead of solely relying on any kind of inbound phone traffic. Approaching the analytics side was simple. Prior to the revamp, there were none. So I set out to implement SEO keywords to help push us up the Google ranks and get our site noticed. All this was on a shoestring budget. It's been a work in progress and no small task when you try to adjust a marketing model that is arguably 50 years old. Our site is on version 2 since its relaunch in 2021. I then started building our email marketing messaging and successfully built a click-through rate higher than our industry average. Email campaigns were usually simple and short. Too much info causes the reader to want to delete and move on. Furthermore, I discovered that based on the specific audience, there's a sweet spot for frequency of emails going out. Our industry likes to be communicated with, but not every week. After the initial reset on our website, the next project was to tackle our sampling materials. We live in a scratch and sniff universe, and talking about fabric on phone and email only goes so far. Architects, fabricators, and wholesalers need to see and feel the material to know how it will perform to their needs. ICF had historically purchased 3-inch black binders and filled it with every color of every style of fabric we make. To give you an idea how much fabric that is, it's basically taking about 18 different fabrics, multiplied by up to 40 different colors, multiplied by up to 10 different finishings. That's a big number. I had to find a way to shrink this down as the previous method was wasteful, costly, and time-consuming. My approach centered on 2 different avenues. People still need to see our wide range capabilities, but they don't need to see it in every combination possible. In isolating our top 10 colors, I was able to shrink our 30-pound 3-inch binder down to a 5x7 spiral-bound book that incorporated descriptions and spec info along with examples in an easy-to-follow format. These collection books were created for our main shade fabric lines in conjunction with sample cards, or teaser cards, that contain smaller swatches for color and texture identification. The purpose of the sample cards was to provide detailed information about our fabrics, but with a lower cost approach so that we could provide information to customers that might not necessarily need to be interested in the entire collection book. These cards have quickly become the go-to for our customers, and we have created a program for our wholesale partners where we provide cards as a custom branded option. In 2023, I set out to have some fun with our approach to communicating with customers. I created a small video series with the intent of broadcasting monthly. However, I quickly realized that doing this on a zero budget, using 2 cell phones and a GoPro, and tackling all the other responsibilities under my belt, the video series was cumbersome and hard to pull off with any kind of high volume. That said, we did a 3-episode journey that highlighted our fabrics, industry updates, and USPs that some customers were not aware of, all while having some fun so that viewers would watch all the way through. Here are some links if you'd like to go check them out. The idea behind the rebranding campaign was that ICF, formerly known as Indiana Coated Fabrics, somewhat isolated us to specific markets. While our coating business is a core pillar of what we do, our daily manufacturing is 90% in fabric lamination, which is bonding together fiberglass or polyester scrims with various layers of PCE films to create various forms of fabric. On top of that, we realized that our position in the market recognized us as the domestic manufacturer for blackout roller shade, which is great. However, we produce industrial use fabrics, artist mediums, projection screen, and many other materials that are not necessarily universally known. Nor is it known that we can do a lot of various converting work. We partner with fabric producers and other sectors to trim and cut fabric to various finished widths. We needed a brand refresh externally and internally that would better organize our approach. How we managed our business and classified customers internally was one giant salad bowl and oftentimes created production issues. We developed practices to better utilize our ERP system and help organize our business. By creating 4 silos, shading, arts and entertainment, industrial, and converting, we can speak to the market and work internally with a much easier flow. With this, our R&D projects are better classified, thus moving them along faster in the background. With the rebranding came a second opportunity to compact our universal approach to how we should be seen. From colors to fonts, even to how email signature is laid out, everything has a cohesive flow, and as an outsider, you quickly understand who you are communicating with no matter the platform. One of the fun things I loved doing at ICF was putting on our quarterly luncheons along with our annual Christmas party. It's just as rewarding to provide a story internally as it is externally and to give back to our employees. This past Christmas was a fun event as I donned my best Monty Hall and played Let's Make a Deal, handing out over $2,000 in cash and prizes. There's a lot here and a lot more we could be reviewing. Your time is valuable, and I hope these elements and examples provide an insight into where I have been with my career, experiences, and a creative approach to marketing the various stories I've been involved with. One thing I do know about myself, and I believe it's been illustrated, was best summed up by Andy Jassy. The difference in people and the success within their careers is whether or not they choose to be lifelong learners. I can honestly say my entire professional life has been all about learning, and I truly look forward to stepping aboard with ARI so that I can continue to learn and help build an impactful story to leverage all that ARI is. Thank you so much.